on the defensive side of the ball. How good can this 2024 interior defensive line class be? We'll discuss it next on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parsons, always on the ones and twos. You can find me on Twitter at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout with the Draft Network and your favorite and local running back guru. And as always, the champ is here with me, my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find him on Twitter at TheTalentCode. Keith, talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, senior draft analyst with the Draft Network, man. And like DP always cues me up, man. 2019 national champ. Yes, those LSU Tigers, man. But you know why we're here? We're here to bring you championship level content surrounding the NFL draft, man. And we've been going through this, I guess you say, summer scouting series as far as the introduction phase, right? And yesterday, I think I messed up. For those who listened yesterday, I said that was the last group, right? That safeties was the last group. Guess what? I wasn't truthful, man. We forgot about the big boys. We forgot about the trenches. We did the edge defenders, but we didn't go over the defensive tackles, man. And like we talked yesterday about the safeties in a position that's devalued, maybe, right? With the defensive tackles, that is not the case. Jeffrey Simmons getting paid. Aaron Donald got his money. Dewayne Carter just went top 10, right? So we're going to talk about these defensive tackles, man. Some of the premier names to look out for in this upcoming class with DP, man. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off. We'll throw out a couple names, man, and have these conversations about a couple of these guys.
No, for sure, man. And keep the one name that I want to bring up, a LSU guy, Maason Smith. Last year he only played, part of the first game. He got injured versus Florida State, and he missed the rest of the season. But going back even to his freshman year, right, in 2021, a guy that had 12 pressures, 4 sacks, 12 run stops. He was really, and what you saw at 6'5", 300 pounds, a guy that was versatile, right? Like, you look at some places and they have this guy listed as an edge, right? Like 6'5", 300. He's like an edge rusher, but you see that athleticism with him.
Yeah, so I lucky enough, man, I actually just finished watching Maason before we started this podcast. So he's pretty fresh on the brain. Yeah, he listed at edge rusher because he plays the edge, right? Like, and you have to go back, like you said, man. He injured himself the very first game of the season against Florida State. He was celebrating a teammate's tackle, jumped up, came down towards ACL. So he was out. So we have to go back to his freshman year, right? And watch the 2021 film. And this is the thing, during that time and that period, LSU had a more veteran, I guess, D-line rotation, right? We had guys like Ali Gaye, BJ Ojulari, Jaquelin Roy, Jacobian Guillory, and he was the new guy, right? So it was more so, if you ask me my opinion, it's one of those like get in where you fit in type situations and where do you best serve. So yeah, in the 2021 film, he plays edge rusher. So you watch this guy 6'5", 300 pounds, plays the edge rusher position. But there are times too where he kicks in right to the defensive tackle position. And what I think was in the rotation, I think he was number 2. Like he was the second guy on the depth chart at defensive end and defensive tackle. So whoever needed a spell, he would come in and play that way, right? But what you see is, and like you said, we're not going to go over grade and everything, but like you said, for 6'5", 300 pounds, the first thing initially is everybody going to think like, oh man, Jordan Davis, right? Because that was the last time we seen a guy that big, but this guy's a lot more nimble and it's not as much body mass, right? Like don't get me wrong, 6'5", 300 pounds is a big dude, but I don't think the comp of Jordan Davis is a good comp, right? Because when I was watching him, and I'm thinking of guys, and I just mentioned his name, Jeffrey Simmons, maybe something more in that, like a guy that's athletic.
Grady Jarrett, maybe.
Yeah, I can see something like that. Grady Jarrett wouldn't be a bad comp either. That actually may be a better comp because Grady has a bit of finesse to his game also, and you can see that with Maason because Maason is a high level athlete at 300 pounds. Like he tries to win the edge, but you can see that his most advantageous situation is when he's kicked inside and his athleticism is there to beat the offense, like to beat the interior offensive linemen, like the guards and the centers and everything. So man, this he's gonna be a fun prospect because we only have freshman film. Right, we sophomore year he was hurt. Then junior year, obviously highly touted. And then it's going to come down to where does he play, right? And then what does he do? And then what does the sack production look like? So he's definitely going to be a fun player. DP, but man, I see another name scrolling down here, Michael Hall Jr. Won't you talk to me? I know because you have Ohio State, so I don't know if you probably got eyes on him at some point. Seeing him. What do you think about Michael Hall from the perspective of just his potential impact and what he can do?
I think with Michael Hall Jr., who's listed at 6'2", 290, man, he's going to be a single gap penetrator, kind of a 3-tech, a guy that I think his biggest impact is going to be on the passing downs, where he has good quick hands, good burst off the line of scrimmage, and he uses good, to me, from the because I haven't finished watching. I just watched enough of him while I was watching JT. The edge defender for Ohio State, and as I'm watching him, I'm getting my eyes on Michael Hall. And one thing that popped for me too is I saw for the reps that I paid attention to, that drive phase. He keeps the shoulder pads low so he can drive into the chest plate of the offensive lineman. And be able to really stay flexible and stay low, not popping straight up and being broad-shouldered and sticking his chest out there for guys to get their hands in and be able to latch grip and control them. It's not somebody I don't think I want to put him in like at that. In college, we see a lot of defensive lines where you have a guy at 290 pounds playing 0 and 1-tech and 2-eye. And it's like, yeah, in the NFL, that's probably not where you're going to play.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. But I think that 3-tech is perfect for him.
Yeah, I have a question, DP, just from what you've seen. And, obviously this is the introduction, right? So we're talking about potential, but also we haven't, did the deep dive to know exactly, and feel 100% comfortable with what we're saying. But I want to ask you from a potential perspective, is this a guy that's like a potential first rounder, right? Like, and then we're coming off the heels of Dewayne Carter. Any of these guys, we talking about Maason Smith, Michael Hall, and we still have to talk about Tyler Davis, are these guys that you can see or foresee being top 10, top 15 picks?
I think I think with Michael Hall, I think he has the potential to be a first rounder. I'm definitely want to get into that deep dive later on this week to really see that full skill set, see how he handles the double teams and against the run, and does he, squeeze and leverage gaps correctly and different things like that on a consistent basis. But like the athletic tools, the motor is incredible. This young man that chases plays down from backside, things of that nature. I loved what I saw from him. Like I said, it was in spurts because I was still studying his teammate, the defensive end, so I can get him a grade. But with him, I came away impressed with what I saw, and it just gives me. It makes me more anxious and excited to watch him in totality to really see what he's capable of. But Keith, for in terms of Tyler Davis, a similar, I think I would say similar body type almost in terms of what they bring. You know what I mean? 6'2", but he's 300.
I was just about to say Tyler Davis probably about 6'2", like 295, 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm. And very similar games in a way too. They win with burst and quickness off the ball, active hands in terms of being able to reduce hitting surfaces and block and shed and disengage from blocks, and what we call in the South, when guys are just sitting there fighting with hands, called chicken fighting. Like you don't want to do a lot of that. You want to get to your spot, win quickly, and get in the backfield. And this was a guy that we all thought was going to come out. I think he accepted his Senior Bowl invite, but then him and his teammate Rook, which we're going to get to in the next segment, but he went back to school, and arguably this might be the best defensive tackle tandem in college football. Like I said, strong hands. He does show lower body flexibility, and he can. For a guy that's 300 pounds, I don't want him taking on double teams at a high rate, but he's shown the ability to do so and the lower body power and strength to anchor, to get his feet dug into the ground and anchor, man. But I got one question for you, Keith. We talk about Maason real quick. With Maason, and we, like you said, him being listed at edge, but if he plays predominantly IDL, do you think he could be a shoo-in for the top spot?
That's tough, man. That's tough because I think we're still trying to figure out this class. Like last year, I think we pretty much knew Jalen Carter was
Yeah.
that dude, right? And then it's just tough because Maason hasn't played. Like I think there would be a lot more hype around him entering the year, but he was hurt last year, right? Like you talking about the first half of the very first game of the season. So we're going off of freshman film. I would like to think, I would say this. I think the upside for Maason is a top 10, top 15 prospect, but there is variance around there because we have to see how he rebounds from injury. What does he look like? Obviously, he's still carrying 300 pounds around. What position that he plays? Like I said, that's going to be so important to what position that he plays. Is he playing interior defensive lineman or edge? So DP, I like if you had to ask me, we talk about we're not betting me, but if I had to put a couple dollars, I would. I don't know if I would go all in yet just because of the totality of this class and then just with Maason, having a rebound from the injury, come back, prove that he's healthy and everything. So I think it's going to be a fun discussion, man, with these defensive tackles, especially Maason Smith, because the size is going to be evident, right? 6'5", 300 pounds in the way he moves. So he's going to do some very attractive things. But DP, man, keeping this ball rolling, you mentioned one guy, right? You mentioned Ruka Roar, right? Then we have Tyleek Williams, another defensive tackle at Ohio State. We have Zykevious Walker, another defensive tackle. So we have some big names, man, guys that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", big body guys that can make impacts that we're excited about where these guys are going to, ball out, what they're going to do moving into this upcoming year in this college football season. So coming up next, man, we're going to continue to dive into the names, continue to talk about some of these guys, and there may be some more intriguing names that pop up in situations that, hey, these guys' stock can skyrocket throughout the college football season.
Guys, if you're looking for a delicious snack, but you don't want all the sugar and calories and you need to give the best tasting protein bar ever a try, and that's Built Bar. If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on taste, I know I don't. I got just a thing for you guys. Built Bars and Built Puffs, they're healthy and they taste amazing. Seriously, they taste so amazing. You won't even realize or think that they're good for you, so you got to give it a try. I promise you it won't disappoint. And the reason why they taste so good, for starters, they're covered in 100% real dark chocolate. You heard me correct, 100% real dark chocolate. They come in unbelievable flavors. Churro, peanut butter brownie, and my personal favorite, cookies and cream, guys. So you can do like me and go to your local pharmacy at local Walmart to the pharmacy section, get a 4-bar box of Built Bars, or go to your Sam's Club, buy them in bulk with the specialty flavors as well. Or you can allow us to help you and go to BuiltBar.com. And guys, you go to BuiltBar.com, you use our promo code LOCKEDON15. That's LOCKEDON15, and you'll get 15% off your very next order. The risers, Keith, you kind of laid that up perfectly. You threw that alley-oop very well. Ruka Roro. I think I nailed that. You know what I mean? Because he got that last name has been throwing me off for a while. But this was a guy that he started in spurts in 2022 for Clemson's defensive line, which we know was highly touted, but a lot of stars and a lot of versatility and everything else. 6'4", 295. He came away with 21 pressures, 3 QB hits, 3 sacks. But now, and just like Tyler Davis, I believe Rook also committed to or accepted his invite to the Senior Bowl back in January of this year, Keith. And then, next thing, or December or whenever it was given to him, and we were excited to see him. The next thing you know, yeah, he's not coming. You know what I mean? And he went back to school, but I don't mind him going back. And the reason why is because now he has a chance to showcase with that. Listen, 6'4", 295, 300 pounds, heavy-handed, powerful, the strength on the upper body, being able to really anchor in the run game. And I think, and hold him at the point of attack, man. And I look at him, the main thing I'm looking for with him is to see how, because, at the end of the day, you talked about interior defensive linemen similar to safeties being kind of devalued. A big part of that is because it's a passing league, right? So everybody wants guys that can get after the quarterback. All that, and that's been the case for the past couple of years, up until maybe until last year, where, okay, yeah, you want to have those pass rush specialists that are 285 pounds, 290 pounds on your interior defensive line. And then the offense is like, we're going to just run the ball right at you. You know what I mean? Because these guys can't hold up against the run game. So you need a guy like Rook and some of the other guys, Maason Smith and Michael Hall. You need those guys that can hold up at the point of attack. But the main thing I'm looking for with Rook is showcasing that 3-down potential. The hand usage, the hand technical aspect of his game. Does he have that to be a 3-down player? I can't wait to really dive into his tape.
Yeah, so a name I want to go with DP is a guy that I think he just transferred. He was originally playing at Ole Miss. Now he's in your neck of the woods. You have once again another good football player. Interior defensive lineman Tywone Malone. This guy was a highly rated player, recruited by everybody. Went to Ole Miss, but now he's at Ohio State. He's at Ohio State. So you're talking about another mix, right? Another interior defensive lineman, another body to throw in there. Now he would be fairly new to this rotation, right? So you have to, and I can see the transfer by him, because Ole Miss runs a weird scheme, right? They do that kind of Big 12 3-3 stack situation, and they do a bunch of different things. And maybe he wants to play a more traditional defensive tackle position, right? Or alignment that's more beneficial to his skill set. So this is a name that, like you said, man, he transferred, right? So you're gonna have to watch the Ole Miss film to be able to, check him out. But him going into Ohio State, where he's going to have Jack Sawyer on one side, right? Where he's going to have JT Tuamalu, right? Where he's going to have Michael Hall. Then, he can be placed there. You still have Tyleek Williams, right? Who we have to discuss real quick at Ohio State. So I think when we talk about Ohio State and having this rotation, it's going to be a good situation for Tywone Malone. He just has to get into that starting rotation. And I think he's going to be able to produce at a high level.
Now, I'm excited to see that, Keith. And when you talked about Tyleek Williams, 6'3", 6'4", 315, a guy that was a rotational piece on that defensive line for Ohio State. And now I expect him to be more into that starting type of role alongside Michael Hall. And it's a different body type, right? Big, powerful guy that's going to help you in the run game, and play that one tag, zero tag, maybe some 2-eye as well, and really getting – as a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. So a guy that has a quick first step forward size, good footwork. And then, like I said, the powerful hands to deconstruct and shed blocks is what you really want to look for. So this, at the end of the day, guys like him and Michael Hall and Tywone, these guys are going to be so important because you don't know what kind of quarterback play you're going to get from Ohio State. So the defense playing well. And listen, if it's one way you're going to be able to beat Michigan, because you've lost back-to-back seasons against Michigan, you got to stop the run, baby. You got to stop Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, man. And you got to be able to stop the run on the interior. And that's what Tyleek and Michael Hall and this defensive line. I'm excited to see what this young man's going to be able to do. Hopefully, like in a full year of starting, because he can, at the end of the day, teams look for athletic, big body guys, and I think he fits that mold.
Yeah, and I mean, just what you talked about, right? Being able to beat Michigan and things like that. We talked about this college football season and like who's number one is kind of up in the air, right? We'll see if Georgia, is ranked number one, or they had the most, returning people, which they probably don't. Everybody went to the draft.
They will.
But when you have names like Tyleek Williams, Michael Hall, and Tywone Malone, and Jack Sawyer and JT Tuamalu, I'll say this: Ohio State, it seems like they have a shot, right, at being able to contend because they'll be so deep in the trenches, man. And all these guys, like we said, man, we mentioned these names, the combination of the edge rushers and the interior defensive linemen could be real impact football players. So that's why we consistently talk about them, because I think they're like all of them have high ceilings, right? Like they can all make real impacts on the defense. But DP, man, continuing with this conversation of interior defensive linemen, I want to continue to transition, right? And there's some names, man. We had South Carolina edge/defensive tackle. He transferred to Oregon, Jordan Burch. So there are a lot more names that we want to throw out there, man. So coming up next, we're going to continue to dive into these names. Obviously, the transfer portal has switched some things up, right? It's not just the quarterbacks and the wide receivers transferring. It's those defensive linemen getting on the field, and in the right situation, these guys can take off. So coming up next, man, we're going to continue to flesh out these defensive tackles, interior defensive linemen, impact players, and who has a chance to raise their stock.
Shout out to our everydayers, as we always tell y'all, man. But you know what time it is. As we've been doing in these positional breakdowns and introductions, it's time to wake up. That alarm clock is going off, and it's not a time up there. It's a bunch of prospect names. And Keith, we didn't get a chance to talk about him in the last segment, but I wanted to ask you about Fabian Lovett, who I know you've seen a few times for Florida State. Where do you view him in this class?
Yeah, Fabian, man, I battle back and forth with Fabian because there's some, really good things to like about Fabian Lovett. And then there are also some things to prove. So I'm glad he came back. But you're talking about a loaded Florida State team, which they should be loaded this year, right? And if he can just continue to work on
the details of his game, because he is a pretty good athlete. He's strong, he's stout. And now I think it's just about developing that pass rush repertoire. What we just talked about, right, was, being able to affect the quarterback. And that's what people are going to want from the interior defensive line position. So I think that's more sort of thing, him just continue to develop, because he is, he's impactful for this Florida State team. Florida State should be loaded, so he'll have plenty of opportunity to make big time plays. But DP, I want to toss it back your way, man, with defensive tackle Zycavius Walker, and just your familiarity with him as a football player, and just some of the things with him.
Yeah, so, let's say 6'4", a little over 300 pounds, like 305, big, strong kid. You know what I mean? And being able to do a good job holding up well against interior offensive linemen. Great, really good arm length just off the, the look on tape. Strong-handed, heavy-handed, like the power and his first step quickness is surprising. Not the power, but the first step quickness for a guy of his size, being a bigger body, but a guy that you feel comfortable playing. I think he could play 2-eye or 3-tech, maybe even a little bit of 1, because he is strong from just top down. He's a guy that can kind of anchor in the run game, as well as use that arm length to lock out and the term stack, peak, and shed. Being able to lock out those arms, stack the interior offensive lineman, find, peek, and locate the ball, shed, and get there, right? And that's what you look for. You don't want guys to just, and a lot of times, as we saw, like with Georgia, with like a Jordan Davis, Devonta Wyatt, all those guys, that scheme was always asking those guys more so just contain the gap, right? Squeeze it down, leverage it, and just like basically close it, right? And be like a roadblock. Where you see other defensive schemes where it's like, go get the ball. You know what I mean? Don't just do that. Like, I want you to do that too, but go get the ball. And I think he's somebody that does a good job of it. And I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do. The main thing with him is going to be just the technical aspect of the game, right? Being consistent with his hands in terms of being able to throw multiple counters, and if the first move doesn't work, if the bull rush doesn't work, what else do you have in your back to get back there and not just do well against the run, but again, similar to Tyleek, being able to showcase the ability to be a 3-down type of player. But he has the frame and I think the athletic and physical tools to do so, Keith. But I got a guy, Keith, I'm really excited about, and that's over at Duke. And I'm gonna say this, like we typically aren't excited about anyone from Duke. You know what I mean? But listen, Duke got 2 guys I'm excited. Dewayne Carter, that we talked about, Riley Leonard, the quarterback. But with Carter, man, 6'3", 298. The main thing I want to see is where they're going to play him, where he, this season. You saw a lot of them in the B gap and things like that. But, with his body type, you're like, well, can he play some like maybe 4-3 defensive end? Because he's kind of built like that, right? He's got a little bit. He may be able to also play some 5-tech in like an odd front. But Keith, 30, bro, listen, 6'3", 298. But listen to these numbers, Keith. 4 batted passes, almost 40 pressures, 5 QB hits, 3 forced fumbles, and 8 sacks in 2022. Extremely productive, gets after it, powerful, quick off the ball. He just does so many things well that can really impact the game. So I'm looking forward to that. Of course, me being the host of Locked On Clemson, and the Clemson fans listening, go check it out. I'm kind of, for Clemson's interior offensive line, the battle, if he does get reduced inside with him and that's in center Will Putnam, like that's going to be a battle. And this is a guy that I truly believe can wreck some games, for the Duke Blue Devils in that defensive front. And if you don't contain him, he can get back there and not only get back there, but make the sacks, but also get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. And we all know if you can create turnovers, the NFL teams really look at you in a different light. Just not just be able to create pressure, but to take the ball away and give it back to the offense. This is a young man I think everybody needs to know going into the 2023 college football season.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to see, right? When we're talking about a guy at Duke making plays, and we had Northwestern, right? So something with these academic schools, man, they're trying to turn it around. They're trying to get some things going, man. They're trying to say we play football too. But DP, I want to go to, we talked about Georgia earlier, right? And just talk about a couple guys on their roster real quick. And I want to start with their senior nose tackle, Nazir Stackhouse, man. You're talking about, just a big physical guy that has a presence, be able to play strong against the run. And we know that Georgia, they have a heavy defensive line rotation, right? So they keep these guys coming in and coming out, coming in and coming out. So maybe the production is always there, but we're talking about a guy, I think he's like 6'4", 6'5", really good mover at Georgia. They play, stronger against the run and things like that. So I'm excited to see him also, DP, just to, see what he does. And I'm envisioning that this will kind of be, he'll be in that kind of star role in the sense of the fact of like he's the senior on that defensive line because they have, some young guys with, I think Michael Williams is over there who's probably going to be the next superstar. Then he's playing next to Warren Brinson, right, who's another senior defensive tackle. So it'll be fun to see what Georgia does and names that appear. But I think Nazir Stackhouse is definitely a name to kind of circle to see what he's able to do this year.
No, 100%, Keith. And the name that I feel like you talk about sleepers, man. We put him up for 40 over at UCF, man. Lee Hunter, 6'4", 320. From Mobile, Alabama, but a kid that is powerful. He has that build that you look for, right? In terms of being a kind of zero tech, nose tackle, one tech, where he's literally just kind of plugging gaps and containing the run game. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he's able to do, because last year, he was more of a rotational guy, right? And that's why we do these introductions, because there's a lot of guys that are more rotational, that move around. That's okay. Now, if you get thrusted into the starting position, what are you going to be able to give us, and what are you going to be able to show us? And I'm excited to see what this young man can do, because he does show off and showcase, quickness for a big 320-pound body, but also just the physicality and power he's going to be able to bring. And if he can two-gap and handle the run game and anchor and occupy lanes, that's going to bode well for him, because what teams that run the odd fronts, he could be that nose tackle for him, that kind of throwback. And if he shows enough pocket pushing ability, that also bodes well for him going into the NFL, because teams will look at him like, you know what? If we go to more of those kind of, not so much NASCAR packages, but those kind of smaller fronts where we have three out of our 4 defensive linemen are edge rushers, he can be that one big guy that can push the pocket, demand and command the number of bodies thrown his way, and help free up his explosive, speedy edge rusher. So I'm gonna keep my eye on Lee Hunter, man. But guys, let's go ahead.
I was gonna say I think that's a good name, Paul and DP. I'm looking at Lee Hunter, and I'm like, I know this name sounds familiar, man. I'm like, this name. And then when you say UCF, and I'm like, but that doesn't match. So I went and looked up his player profile. He was at Auburn, right? So it's like Auburn, man. Y'all had all the guys, right? Then I look at Zykevious Walker. He didn't play as much last year. He was in and out of the portal. So I'm like, Auburn, y'all had the defensive lineman to go to war with anybody. Like come on, man. Got to get this thing together. They have a new head coach, so maybe they get that thing turned around. But yeah, I was checking that out, and I said, I know that name sounds familiar, but Lee Hunter was definitely at Auburn.
Yeah, no, Auburn was such a toxic situation they had going on over there, man. Hopefully, the new head coach can coming over from Liberty can get some things straight. But guys, man, listen, we appreciate y'all as always. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to the podcast to get the latest episode as soon as it's available. As always, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day, Monday through Friday. You're family, but you're also the everydayers. Every time I say that, I think about my man from the Fast and Furious series, Dominic Toretto. You know what I mean? I just watched the Fast X movie this past weekend. I'm never going to see another one again because it's a trilogy. But I appreciate y'all as always, man. Definitely come back and tap in with us tomorrow, because we're going to start getting into, just kind of tapping into these rookies. OTAs just finished up. So we want to see how some of these guys perform. Who's showing out? Who needs some work in as we get ready to ramp up for mini camp? Guys, listen, football is creeping along, but we getting there. So in terms of Twitter, you can find Keith Sanchez at The Talent Code. I'm Damian Parson, DP_NFL. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.